Coach, I guess first of all, when you look at the defensive numbers, and obviously y'all have first half of the schedule, y'all played some explosive offenses. Obviously Alabama being one of those, but the compared to last year, is there anything you can point to, or is it different factors that the defense just ain't quite as consistent as it was last year?
Yeah, that's a fair question and a statement that I would concur with, that for whatever reason, our defense isn't as stout as it was last year in SEC play. But it all can't be put on the defense. You know, people talk about our KenPom numbers being much higher offensively than a year ago, and they are. But in SEC play, sometimes things we do on offense affects, our defense because of being put in some bad situations with all the turnovers that we're committing. And it's probably the hardest thing that there is to guard is turnovers. Shot selection, bad shots, early shots that aren't, on rhythm and open turn into fast break opportunities for our opponents. And certainly at the end of the day, I don't care how we win. I've said that before. I just want to win. But if you want to break it down, by numbers, what we've relied on to win some games has been, on that end of the floor. And certainly with the output that some of the teams have had against us, we haven't been able to rely on that quite as much. But I do believe that it's a big picture issue as much as it is just the defensive end. And I will say that, and this isn't an excuse, this is just facts, that the new charge rules have affected a lot of teams' defenses depending how they're put together and what's important. And we tried, since they made the decision to have a different interpretation of charge block and what constitutes a charge and what doesn't. And just the fear of driving in there and knowing that they can't get, more than likely a charge call changes a lot of early help and forcing the ball to the baseline, because not just the charges, but the thought of, hey, I better be careful is thrown out the window. And like a lot of other teams that play a similar style, it's hurt them as well.
We'll go front row left to Justin and then Steph.
Chris, is there any update to DJ Jeffrey's status?
Yes, unfortunately, he has a knee issue and he'll be out for a while. I'm not exactly sure, but it won't be long term. He definitely will be out, though.
Chris, I'm curious, you were just talking about the turnovers, and obviously free throw shooting has been a struggle too. I mean, is there some kind of silver lining to seeing that a lot of the issues do seem to be self-inflicted, something you guys can fix as the season goes on?
We talked a lot about this last year especially. Our margin for error isn't as big as some other teams in our league. I felt like going into the season that we had, through recruiting and retention, had raised our margin of error a little bit. Like we had built up some margin for error with the pieces that we had in place. And it usually doesn't, but it hasn't unfolded quite like we anticipated. And so, therefore, because of that, we're back to a point where we just don't have a big margin for error in terms of mistakes, in terms of how we have to play to be successful against especially the better teams in the SEC. And it's something that I think all of us have to get our head around, and we have to stay in character, if you will, to how we need to play in order to be successful.
We'll go to coaches right here, and Danny P.
Coach, you mentioned after the game that you felt like you had a team that would be confident and could bounce back from the recent tough losses. Just talk more about that, and just maybe, I know Tolo's a leader and some of the others, just some of the guys maybe that maybe stepped up right after the game in the locker room and say, look, we can still get this thing going. Yeah,
there wasn't a ton of discussion in the locker room. the older I get, the more I understand that more often than not, that's not the time to try to fix the problem. Everyone is obviously disappointed, with the result. And, there's not a lot said. We try to keep our emotions in check and, sleep on it, watch the video, make sure that, we're setting the correct tone for any type of growth that can be gained when you lose like that, and try to, catapult ourselves to bigger and better. And that's kind of where we're at today. Yesterday was a day off for them. I know some of them, got in here to take care of their bodies and work, on their shots and free throws, et cetera, which is usually par for the course throughout the year. But I said that because, I've only been in this league and in this job for 2 years, but the experience that I had last year was one that we found ourselves in a similar situation. And I remember being in the locker room many days prior to practice, after practice, telling our guys that, we had a chance to turn this around, that we were right there to be able to win some of the games that maybe we had lost the first half of the conference season. And like I said Saturday night, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future. And just because we had a turnaround last year doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have one this year. And that's what I got to make sure they understand, that it doesn't work that way. And it's important that everybody in our program, doesn't rely on, hey, we've been there, done this, other than the fact that we do have that experience, that we understand what that feels like. Now, how it unfolds is going to be how it unfolds. And we're going to have to do, the things that are necessary to put ourselves in position to win games. But, the experience of having done that certainly can't be a bad thing.
Back to Justin and Steph.
Chris, just a follow-up to defense and with DJ. Obviously, he's been the tone setter on that side of the floor. Is there a guy you think can, or you'd like to see sort of step into that role with him being sidelined?
Our options are dwindling. We've been playing 8 guys for the most part. So if you take him out of the equation, that's 7. DJ started all year long. He's basically been a starter for 2 years. He's arguably our best defender, depending on who you ask, depending on how you define individual best defender. And so there are some big shoes to fill. A lot of minutes that we're going to have to spread around. There's no one that I'm saying needs to replace DJ. Obviously, Sean Jones, is a candidate to, soak up a lot of those minutes because of the position he plays and what he brings to the table. And, individually, I thought he showed a lot of fight on Saturday and played a lot of minutes, and especially in the second half. So he's a guy that we'll certainly try to, lean on to, like I said, soak up some of those minutes and his productivity on both ends of the basketball. But, we just all need to play better. I think, if we all would look at it as if, hey, I got to do my part. If I can play, 4 to 6% better, and we all have that attitude, that would be a big positive if you add it all up. And that's probably going to be part of the message going forward, is that, we don't need one guy to go from playing at a C to be playing at an A+. We need everybody just to pull their weight, if you will, and everybody leave anything that they got individually to the side and be about this team and what we have remaining, because that's what it's going to take. They say it takes what it takes, and right now, with our margin of error slipping, rapidly, I guess, with the news of DJ, we're going to have to rally around the team and everybody, trying to play a little bit better.
To follow up on that, is there any update on Keyshawn's availability, and could he be a guy that maybe gets some increased minutes to help fill that role with DJ out?
Murph's been back with us now. He's been on the floor. He's working his way to, get himself in position to play in the games, and certainly that would be a nice, shot in the arm for us if he was available on game day, but it's a day-to-day situation right now.
Go back to coaches right with Paul and then Benjamin.
Anything on Trey when he may be back?
Yeah, again, he's, working with the trainer diligently to, get his injury, his hand in position to be able to, do things on the basketball court. And, I get day-to-day updates with him too, and that's where he's at.
Is his shooting hand?
Mhm.
Another question, when you look at Georgia, another team that's played a pretty challenging schedule in the first half, and they've had some close calls as well, and played in some tough environments and held their own. What sticks out to you? Any differences from last year? Obviously, they've added some pieces, but what do you see from them this year compared to last year?
Yeah, they just shoot the ball so well. That's what jumps out to me the most is they have great spacing, and one of the reasons they have great spacing is they usually have almost always have four guys on the court that are proficient three-point shooters. So one, that creates great spacing, and then with the way that their staff has coached them on spacing, you add the fact they're in the right spots, puts you in some tough spots because they've got some guards out front that can put their head down and bully drive you and create help situations. They got a couple 5 men around the basket that know their role and can set ball screens and roll. They can sit in and score one-on-one around the basket, and they just really been impressed with their ability on offense to put the defense in tough spots and really make you think of how you're gonna game plan against them. And then on the other end, they're well schooled. They don't make mistakes. They know who they are. They're in the right position, and they're a good basketball team. I mean, they're a good basketball team, and this league is obviously it's hard to win in, and we're going to have our hands full on Wednesday.
It's sort of been the way the sport is trending. We've faced a lot of teams that do space the floor well. Obviously, Alabama, you just played, they go 5 out, have a ton of three-point shooters. So does playing teams like that pretty much night in and night out help prepare for another matchup like that with Georgia?
You would think on face value, but whatever we were trying to do on Saturday wasn't working. So maybe it was more, hey, we need to change this because it didn't work against a team that you mentioned has a 5-out personality and has a lot of three-point shooting. But, we're working to try to put our guys in the best position possible like every other game, and hopefully we can come up with a better plan to, and play against Georgia.